The coming days after my surgery, right? And I'm not talking about the ones in the hospital either. I mean my first day out. When I'm going back into the real world, having to deal with the new reality that I have. Going out with a sling, swollen arm from a 5-hour surgery, and I'm having to go back on campus at IMG Academy, get all my stuff. I'm seeing my coaches, my teammates for the first time since I injured my arm, since I broke it 4 or 5 days prior, getting all type of support and smiles. I even went and met with my academic advisor to go and give me a specific plan just so I could stay on track with my academics and everything while I go and rehab at home. And despite all this positivity I'm being fed, all these, you know, good get well wishes and whatnot that I'm being given, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the new reality that I'm in. The fact that I have to go and rebuild myself, fix a situation that I didn't even try or want to put myself in. And, to some extent for me, that was a bit crushing. But then going home, being surrounded by family, being encouraged with not only just comfort, but also all types of love, even a little bit of tough love too. It got me back in the right mindset to say, you know what? Despite what I'm going through, I'm going to conquer this. And from there came all the ups and downs, ebbs and flows, the good days and the bad days. And we'll get even more into that soon. But as for right now, this is Uncontainable by me, Lou Hutchinson. And today, I have my good friend who was actually right there with me as I went through what I was going through in my arm injury, Colby Baumann. Let's get on to the episode. Welcome to the Uncontainable podcast by Lou Hutchinson, where we talk about the pain behind the passion and the triumph that comes from that. This dude right here. When I went through a lot of my personal battles with my injury, he was one of the people that was right beside me. Colby, I'm so excited to have you on today. Man, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, man. I'm blessed to be here, honored to be a part of this. Just doing great overall.
Man, that's awesome. I know I've had my own personal battles. You've had your own personal battles, and, your own personal triumphs. And I'm so happy and excited just to get into that today. Kind of just to start off, you, from what I've seen for as long as I've known you, been probably 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
Um, you were a guy that was a really good athlete, a really good work ethic, but also just like a really good person. So going back kind of like to the beginning, can you just talk a little bit about, um, who you are as an athlete and who you are as a person?
Yeah. As an athlete, I played high school ball here in Houston, Texas. Always felt like I was good, but not great. Um, and then obviously I went to IMG Academy for my senior year and a postgraduate year just because the area was getting real bad around here. And, I had gone to a camp there my freshman year. So it kind of led me into that whole process of getting into IMG and wanting to go there. So I ended up going there my senior year. Obviously met you and a bunch of guys there. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately had a lot of things happen injury wise. But was gracious enough to get into Ohio State and, um, you know, be a basketball player there and ultimately have my whole college career play out there as a player. Um, as a person, I mean, I just always felt like um, I feel like the thing that really defines me as a person that kind of goes along with basketball and athletics is just that I used to always see, like, as a kid, like, you want those autographs from those big name guys or people that you look up to. And I remember, kind of what defined people as a person back then was if they came over to you or not, or how they were around fans and stuff like that. And um, I just always wanted to be that person that had time for people like that. So, I mean, as a person, I always kind of wanted to be that guy, you know?
Yeah, and I mean that's a big thing. A lot of people don't really always realize or acknowledge. It's a lot of times where you might go and meet your favorite player, and whether they realize it or not, or whatever the case may be, like them going and stopping and saying hi to you or signing some or taking a picture with you or just acknowledging you for some kids is a really big thing. And then for others, it's like when you don't, it's kind of like it can almost feel like your world is crashing. So you being that type of person and, just seeing that from you, I feel like is just an amazing thing. Um, cause I mean, like I said, like kids take that seriously, right? Something that we may not, that we're older, we may not take as seriously. As a kid, it's like everything is just exaggerated almost. So, um, going from there, right? Talking about basketball specifically, what is basketball for you? What does it mean to you? What has it been for you? You go into that a little bit.
Yeah. I think basketball's been a bunch of different things to me at different points in my life. I think, growing up, especially my path before I got to IMG, it was a an outlet for me. Just because I had a lot of things going on in my life, especially around my, going into high school and those high school days that um I just needed an outlet for it all. And I feel like I dove really deep into basketball, and it was just kind of something to put my purpose into, my identity in. Um, and then, going into IMG and just, everything that happened, it was almost something that took everything away from me. Um, so that was a hard time for basketball for me because I almost felt like I put so much into it and it wasn't giving anything back. I wasn't getting the offers I wanted. I wasn't getting this and that, and I almost felt like I deserved something from it. But then, I get to college and everything, and it really opened my eyes to the opportunities I got, and how much I got to experience that a lot of people didn't get to see. And I really became blessed with it and grateful. And even now that I'm out of basketball and, I'm graduated, not really out of basketball, but, out of that scene, that um, it's still a blessing. And it's, crazy how much it gives back to you when you don't even, notice the pathways it does. So it's been a lot of different things, but, I'm just blessed and grateful to be able to have it a part of my life.
And, you know, man, basketball has just given us so many opportunities and it's given us so many, different things and avenues and allowed us to build so many different relationships and things like that. I mean, even just going to IMG, that's an opportunity everybody doesn't get, right? Getting an opportunity to go there. I mean, you're dealing with the best coaches, best trainers, best facilities in not just in the country, but in the world, right? I know for me, going from where I was at to going to IMG, that was a big transition, right? It was like, all right, like you said, I know I'm good. Like I'm trying to do everything I can to be great. For you, going, from Texas, from being at home to going and making that transition your senior year and really trying to like climb that ladder and get to the places where you're like, I know I can get to these places. What was that transition like mentally? What's your thought process as you're transitioning and as you're in it, as you're in the meat of it, going through it?
Yeah. When I think back of like the like there's always different stages you take in basketball. There's, like when you first grab it and you first fall in love with basketball, you're just, getting the hang of things. And then when you really understand it and you really understand what you want, I feel like every player kind of goes through that phase of like working their hardest. Like I don't believe that I truly worked my hardest in the end of my college days just because I knew that was it for me and I kind of wanted to experience it all in a way. But when I look back at, when I really was in the thick of it, when I really wanted to become that player that I knew I was, I think of like kind of mid high school days to IMG. When I was at IMG, I remember there was somebody at the front desk of our dorms that I think his name was Daryl. You remember Daryl?
Yeah, I remember Daryl.
Yeah, yeah. But he would. I mean, I used to think that I was like the hardest working dude out there, and he was like, "Are you getting up at 5 a.m.?" And I was like, "Dude, no, I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. Like I'm still trying to get my rest and all that." And he was like, "Well, then you're not the hardest working guy." So I remember from that point on, even post grad days, I would get up at I think it was like 4:45. I would go dribble on those courts outside by the dorms, like
Mm. Oh,
outdoor
you
courts.
were with the tennis kids.
Oh my god! And I remember I would just do like ball handling then I'd go to breakfast, then I'd take the tram to the gym, then I'd get my shots up before practice, then we'd practice, then I'd go from there to school, and then from school, then I'd shoot at night with everybody. Like I was doing so much, and I was like, I was putting everything I had in basketball. And yeah, when I think back of like what it really took and my mindset back then, man, like I think of those days and just like there was really nothing, and I'm grateful that I was at IMG because it was kind of in a situation where like everybody was playing sports, and it was like you have nothing to do but play sports. Um, so my mindset back then, man, was just like if I don't make it in this, then like I have nothing, like, and it's kind of a pro and con mindset because you don't want to think like that, but you also do if you really want to get there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I put everything I had into basketball, and that was a really crazy time.
Yeah, I mean, like IMG, like when you grow up and you have those coaches and those people, or even your parents that are coming to you and they're like, well, when you're sleeping, this person over here is working, this guy's working, or that person's working. At IMG, you're seeing it. Like it doesn't matter what you do, it's somebody that's always working at some point in some way, kind of like you said, everybody plays sports. Everybody kind of has a common goal. Um, One guy for me on my team that kind of showed that more than anybody else was Josh. Um, Josh was a workaholic. I think y'all's work ethics mimicked each other a lot in that way. Um, and because it's like, all right, you going and getting quote unquote extra work at IMG was like regular. That was the regular thing. So it was like, okay, how are you gonna find a way to get another step up and get another extra gear? Kind of like despite that, because you got guys like you, guys like Josh, they're the first guys up, right? First guys trying to get to the basketball court. We have time slots at night. And, for me, Josh pushed me because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to my 40-minute time slot and then I'm gonna go. And he's like, man, the coaches don't really care for real. Like they're cool. Like they'll let you shoot in the other time slots and yada yada yada. Like you can keep working out, keep getting working. And that for me was like okay, let me go ahead and, you know, do even more extra, do even more. Um, Guys like you two specifically are kind of the first ones that come to mind for me in, that area just because I'm like, oh wow, okay. Like I thought I was doing a lot, which I mean, hindsight is like I guess it was a lot because we were normally working out 5 hours a day, which isn't necessarily normal for most high school kids, but
Yeah.
even on top of that, it's like, all right, what's stopping you from going 5.5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 6.5? Because at the end of the day, like you have the best recovery facilities in the world right there to make sure your body is right. So you have no excuses but to do everything you can to go be great. Um, and I feel like you fully grasp that, fully grasp that. But like, I don't think anybody worked out more than those tennis players, though. I'm not gonna lie.
No,
Though
not at all.
they were insane. As soon as you wake up, like they're on tennis courts outside the dorms.
Yeah,
You wake up to the sound of tennis balls. So I mean, but I mean, like that's the type of motivation you were getting.
yeah,
Um, so then going on from there, right? Your senior year, you were a senior, I was a junior. I believe when I went and I broke my arm, that happened, I believe, right before you went and broke your wrist, right? So for me, that happened, had the surgery. I want to say not within even like a week or two, you had your injury, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I vividly remember that time. That was a big part of my life and my athletic journey. What was that experience like for you when it first happened, and then in the coming days, kind of processing? Like, okay, like something, this is a big change. I got to do what I got to do to get back. What was your thought process like there?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of, like, unknowns for me with that 'cause, I remember how it happened was we were playing Mikey Williams. It was, like, kind of a hyped up game for us, um, and like I said, like, I was giving everything I could to basketball, and, like, I was just doing so much that it kinda put me in that mindset of, like, if this doesn't work out, then, there's nothing, and, I remember going to that Mikey game that I was just like, if I can do something this game, because there's so many cameras there that I was like, if I can really show off this game, then, I'll have a chance. Um, and I remember I got a steal and I went up, I actually just posted this video recently. It's funny. I went up to I saw Mikey running with me, and I was like, if I can dunk on Mikey like that, that'll put me out there.
Like you're
Uh,
gonna be all over the place
exact.
automatically.
So I was like, and that was going through my head, and I'm running up, and I go up to dunk it, and he like kind of shoved me out the air, and I remember like just falling from like super high up, just landing straight on my wrist. Um, and I remember feeling something, but I was like, oh, like just kind of brush off whatever. Taped it up at halftime, came back out. Wasn't really right. Like I really wasn't using my left at all. Um, and then after the game, I got it checked out by some of the doctors, and they had thought that I strained it or a small like hairline fracture or whatever. And they kind of gave me the choice to play the next game. And then the next game I did really well. And after that, I was like, like I can finish the season on this, like whatever. But I think my mom or the trainers wanted me to get it checked out. Got it checked out. Ended up being broke. And they were like, we need to put a pin in there. We need to, go have surgery. You're gonna be out the rest of the season. And I was like, just shattered. I was like, just because like I was there for one reason, and I can't even do that anymore. So like, why am I there? Um, and yeah, I just remember thinking about like, how am I gonna work out now? How am I gonna train? How am I gonna get the offers I want? Because this is my last year. It was just everything. And I had never been hurt like that before until that happened. So then, I get the cast, and obviously me and you were out of it, and um, just it was a crazy time, and I remember everything in my head because I was starting, and everything in my head I was like, what if I come back and my spot's gone? What and like people forget about me, and now I'm like just thrown to the side, and just all this different stuff going through my head, and I'm like, this is like the worst possible thing for me because now like I'm not going to be the same player. Like it was just so much doubt and so many thoughts running through my head of like I'm not going to be good enough when I come back, and I'm going to miss all this time for me to get offers, and it was crazy, man.
Man, that I relate to that too much. Too much. Because I was kinda in the same space, but in a different kind of space, right? 'Cause we were on different teams. For me, um, of course, after I got injured, Noah came in, and Noah now is one of my closest friends from IMG. But at the time, I'm like, dang, they just brought this guy in, and he kind of just like took my spot, took my opportunity. Um, so that kind of whole thought process, that's like it almost gives me deja vu in a sense. Um, but I feel like those times, those injuries, those downfalls kind of in a weird way, one force you to look at everything you are other than just the athlete, right? Because it really is life changing, but also aside from that, um, it kind of forces you to go and prepare yourself through certain adversities for other adversities that could come through life in, other different ways. Um, so yeah. And then I remember you actually did you come back early? I feel like you came back early, right? Which to me is no surprise because I mean, like you work the way you work, so
Yeah. Yeah, I think I came back like 3 weeks early, because it was supposed to be a month with the cast. I did a month with the cast, and then it was supposed to be a month with the, what was it? They call it the wet cast or something like that.
yeah,
So then a month with that cast, and then it was supposed to be like another month of just like, rehabbing, getting everything right. And that would have put me over the season. So I was like, there's no way I'm gonna wait that long. And then when I'm finally healthy, the season's over. So I remember when I got the wet cast, it was supposed to be a month in the wet cast. I did a week and a half, and I was just rehabbing the crap out of it. And then right after that wet cast, I started trying to play. And I say trying because I think the first game back, I was like, I had this thing like taped up 4,000 times,
yeah,
and I couldn't even dribble with my left. Like I was like barely moving it, and they like allowed me to play somehow. And I remember like no teams had been trapping the whole year. And then the first game I come back where I can't use my left hand, I'm the point guard, obviously, and they like are full court trapping us. And I'm just like of all teams to come back on, like, you know what I mean? So I got exposed that game. I had like 5 turnovers or something crazy. Um, and then like I remember the coach telling me after the game, like in a nice way, but after the game he was like, like you weren't supposed to be back, like you're not ready to be back, and all this different stuff. And I remember like going to the restroom and just like throwing stuff around. I'm like so mad at myself and mad at the situation just because I was like, I came back early and like my thoughts were like, this guy's gonna take my spot or whatever, and they're not gonna want me anymore. And then the first thing I do is do terrible, and he's just like, you're not ready. So it was crazy, but yes, I did come back early.
yeah, yeah. Um, that whole it's like when you come back, kind of just like you said, you're like your first instinct a lot of times is, man, I gotta get back and almost like be back where I was, if not better than what I was, because you put all this pressure on yourself to go and be great when you haven't, you know, done what you're used to doing. You haven't prepared like you're used to preparing. You haven't been able to work like you're used to working for however long, simply because of something that's kind of out of your control. Um, so yeah, that's I feel like one of the tougher parts about injuries is really just the comeback because um, you know, you like you said, you came back early, worked your tail off to come back early. But then it's like, all right, I'm back, but I'm still not fully me again. Um, and kind of like you, when I came back, I think I had like a big like club on my arm. Like literally, I had like a plastic cast and
Yeah.
it was wrapped in styrofoam and like a bunch of tape. And it was like, I want to say it added like 4 inches on like the diameter of my arm or something like that, all the way up to like my wrist. I could barely move my stuff. Like, so it was uncomfortable, but I was like, if I get to play basketball, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, man, okay, going on from there, right? Finish senior year, go into post grad year, um, and from your post grad year, like you said, you got into Ohio State. What was that transition like, right? You didn't have the most conventional journey up to that point, right? You're going and you're competing and playing with and against, some of the best players in the country and even like in the world for the past 2 years. And you go from there to going to Ohio State. And now it's like it's a whole new arena, whole new battle. Um, what was that transition like for you?
Yeah. Man, I honestly thought when I got the call from Ohio State, I was about to commit to Middle Tennessee State University. Um, and I knew I would probably get to play at Middle Tennessee State. But when I got the call from Ohio State, at first I was like, yeah, of course, like let's do it because it's Ohio State. You don't really pass that up. But um, thinking about it, I was like, I'm probably not going to play, uh, just because it's the name that they are, the division they are, and um, so going into that, when I ultimately committed to that, I knew I probably wasn't going to play, but I knew I could, work my tail off in order to try and to get to where I want to be and the player I want to be and stuff like that. Um, so going into that, I remember texting Coach Carr. I don't know if you remember him. Um, little white coach that I had my post grad year.
Yeah.
He I remember texting him and I was like, like, do you think I could actually play here? And like that was like one of the first texts I had whenever I got there during the summer. And um he texted back, he was like, if you put the work in, like if you do the right stuff, like yes, obviously. That's what I think. But he was like, it's more than that. It's not just about playing. It's the stuff Ohio State provides for you, stuff like that. Um, but I remember just like my mindset, just going back to like that first year at IMG of like my work ethic and all that. Like I would get, so many shots up at night. I would come in the mornings. I'd do the extra work, the extra skill work with the individual coaches, and I was just doing everything I could in order to play. Um, in my freshman year, I honestly did pretty well, better than I was expecting, and um, I scored the first game I got in. Like the first minute I got in, I was high on life that whole year. Um, but yeah, practices were definitely different. Because I went from IMG where I was kind of the guy on the team.
Yep.
Um, and all the coaches were praising me and doing this and that for me and like, oh, like you're the number one option to now I'm on Ohio State and I'm lowest of the low. I'm like I ask a question in practice, like they're yelling at me, even if it's a good question. So
Yeah.
that was definitely different and something I had to adjust to, but, I don't know, man, I honestly think, like, that patience that it taught me and that, just, like, that silent work, like, I feel like, you understand that. It's like, you don't really say too much, you don't need to be, outgoing and, like, flamboyant about everything. It's just kinda like you work in the night when no one's looking, like, nobody sees you on the court really because you don't play that much, but, like, you're one of the hardest workers, like, it was a that time was kinda that era for me, um, and I loved it, like, like, it kinda prepared me. Basketball's funny about, like, how it prepares you for life and other scenarios, and I feel like that's why I'm so blessed and grateful towards it is, like, it's taught me something at every stage,
Yeah.
and even this whole transition after basketball, it's like that, that "silent work," quote, unquote, it's kinda like where I'm at now. Um, like, nobody sees me out there because I'm not playing basketball anymore. I'm not, that fame or that level. So I'm putting in a lot of silent work and a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and it kind of prepares you for stuff like that.
I mean, dude, you nailed it on the head. And like honestly, you know, at least for me, I can see for you how the work is paying off, right? From when I met you, you've always been a very passionate guy. And I mean, your passions that you're putting time into, the things that you're doing, just even the snippets of things that I see on social media, which of course social media doesn't paint the whole picture, but the things that I'm seeing, I'm like, wow, like this guy, his work ethic that he has doesn't it's not just basketball, right? It goes beyond the court. And you doing away with, such attention to detail, but also just like such love with how you treat others, how you go about the way that you carry yourself. It is honestly just been beautiful to see, right? So I mean, yeah, and like you said, basketball in a weird way teaches you and prepares you so much for life just because like those quiet nights by yourself in the gym, going, watching film by yourself, paying attention to the little minute things, even going through rehab, right? It's like, okay, they told me to like rest, but I'm just gonna do my exercises just like a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? Just so I strengthen my stuff. I'm just gonna squeeze this stretch ball a little bit more. And it's like even like those small what seems like a small thing to go and like put extra into, all right, now you get into your career. Now you get into your calling. Now when you go into what God calls you to do, right? When you go the extra mile to do those extra things, to pay attention how you need to pay attention, to, you know, account for every detail, that makes that can end up making a world of a difference.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, yeah, like I said, you nailed it on the head, and kind of from there transitioning, right? I always knew that you were a believer, but as time went on, take me through how your faith grew, because that's been very evident, I feel like, for you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this up front, I've always been a believer, I've always been a Christian, I've always, believed in Christ, but, it kinda got shaky a little, for a lot of times in my life. My freshman year going into my freshman year, my dad passed away, and, um, I had all 4 of my grandparents pass, and, it was just a crazy time, like, house flooded, everything, and that was, like, one of the first times my faith got shaky a little bit, just in the sense of, like, I never lost faith, I never looked to God and was like, "Why this? Why that?" It was just kinda like, why not questioning him, but questioning life of like, what is the point of this? What is, like if small things like this happen, they can alter someone's life. And, that here's my best friend over here and he has both his parents, life's happy. Like why, what is the point of life? What do you work towards, in order to, like fulfill yourself? Like to, you know what I mean? Like genuinely be happy with the outcome of every situation. Um, So that was definitely a rocky point, and I kinda stopped going to church for a long time, honestly, up until, um, like, probably this I got to IMG or I got to Ohio State, um, and then once I got to Ohio State, my coaches started inviting me to church, and I was going to church, but not for the right reasons. I was going just, for the coaches to see me going, for a relationship to be established with them and, get on their good side. Um, and up until I think it was the end of, um, I think it was probably a year and a half ago, like right before the summer hit, I was going into my last year at Ohio State and I knew it was going to be my last year. Um, and I had a lot of things happen back home that just really messed me up mentally. And I've always been that kind of that guy that's like not really aware of mental health, not really like, and I know a lot of people say this, but like I really wasn't. Like when people would be like, "Oh, I'm depressed" or "I have anxiety," I was just kind of like, "Man, like, you know, go on a run, go work out, like you'll be fine." Like
Yeah.
never really understanding how bad it could actually get for people. Um, and last summer I was home here and it was May, so we were off and all that, but I, like, was in a really bad spot, and I remember going back to Ohio State for summer workouts, and
Mhm.
I was cooped up in an apartment by myself, just crying all the time, just, like, I couldn't get myself out of that rut, and I was just severely depressed, severely anxious about every little thing. I was on the basketball court just not loving life at all, not loving basketball, um, put some really bad thoughts in my head, and I told coach, I was like, "Dude, I can't be here," like, Um, I was like, I've loved basketball since I was a kid, but I like seriously just I can't be here. I got to go back home with my mom, with everyone that loves me, stuff like that. And any other coach in the world, I've told this 1,000 times. Like any coach in the world, they would have been like, all right, bro, like you don't even play that much. Like we'll replace you. Go home. Like quit.
Right.
Like um. And I kind of thought that's what he would be, but he brought another coach in the office with me, and he was like, we're gonna give you the summer. Like do what you need to do, be with who you need to be with. And then at the end of the summer, if you want to quit, cool. Like, you at least had the summer to think about it. If you want to come back, then come back. Um, and I went through the whole summer. I was severely depressed the whole summer. I was really bad. I was like, you know what? I'm not going back. Like whatever he says, I'm not coming back. and then it hit right about the time everyone was going to school, and all my friends were going to school, all my my mom was going to work, and I was at this house by myself, just in a dark room, and I remember thinking to myself like, "Man, like what am I doing? Like this is not, like I've been highest of highs. I went IMG to Ohio State, like
Yep.
everybody knows me, everybody looks up to me, and now I'm in the dark room sitting by myself, not doing anything with my life." And it's crazy how fast that happened. And I remember like thinking that, and I was like, "What am I doing here? Like I cannot be here." So I texted, my head coach, and I was like, "Dude, I'm coming back. Like, I don't know what that's gonna take, but I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna get right." And I went back and I went to church that Sunday that I got back, and the first message that they heard was about anxiety and depression, and they were like just talking so much about anxiety and depression. And not really that was like a movement, but like I remember thinking like, okay, like this is the path I got to take. Like if, like God's telling me like I got to seek him. And that's kind of what that whole process kind of taught me is God kind of waits for you, um like I had so much going on in my life from when my dad passed up until, last summer, and I wasn't actively seeking him. He was seeking me in different ways. And, he was just waiting for me. And I feel like that last summer was a point of like him being like, "Hey bro, like you got to come back over here." Um and I started reading the Bible. I started reading it all the way through. I started being a part of these Christian movements back on Ohio State's campus, started speaking out about it, posting about it, doing everything I could to push his word out and really get right. And this past year has been monumental in my faith and just like what I have accomplished in my relationship with him. And yeah, like the old me would have never had a whole post just directed towards God on my page. Um and now I'm like every single post I make is, like if you go on my Instagram, it's every single page has a hashtag of like God is good or like trust God. Um just because like I feel like, with the whole question I asked myself of like what is the point of this whole thing in life? What is the purpose of me even living? Like why would God even put people on this earth if it's just to make money, Um and it's kind of just, he gives you these statues and these um this fame, this notoriety to in order to push him out, push his name out, and he puts the right people in those circumstances so that, he can actively seek other people. Um, so yeah, I mean, this last year has really taught me a lot about myself, about life, about my relationship with him. Just kind of, my purpose, and it kind of set me up for this situation again that I'm in right now of, transitioning out of basketball that I know I'm not in basketball to have fame or notoriety. It's, to pursue him and to have others connect with me to him.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. I'm not gonna lie, like obviously I didn't know all those things about your story and your testimony, but man, I know it's so many people that relate with that. I know it's so many people that deal with their own stuff in silence. I know I did, whether it had been through certain days on IMG's campus where it's like I'm sitting in my bed and I can't do anything, or going through life and going through college and being in tough times because, you know, you're not playing and you feel like you're working so hard and it just life just gets tough in so many different ways. And the fact that you truly, even though it wasn't easy, right? God met you where you were at. And you went and made the decision to go and say, I'm going to pick up my cross and I'm going to follow him. And I mean, like you said, like this changed your life, right? Like you said, this last year for you has been monumental. And I truly believe it's going to continue to be nothing short of just, blessings that he bestows upon you, but also blessings that he's going to do through you for others. Um, you know, whether it just be your posts, your words, your clothing brand that you have been doing, like, man, I ain't gonna lie, you inspiring me, bro. You really inspiring me.
I'm glad, bro.
Um, man, you that just puts a smile on my face for real. Okay. Going back, looking through all of your, college career, looking through all of, IMG, injury, all of that. What's something that you wouldn't give back? Something that you got from everything that you went through that you wouldn't give back.
Like to the next people coming up and stuff like that.
No, like from your journey, from what you went through, what's something that you wouldn't give back? Something that you gained, that you learned about yourself, that you now understand that you didn't before. That you, if you went back and did it all over again, that you'd be like, out of everything that happened, I would make sure I still got that little nugget.
Hmm. That's a good question. Okay, I'm gonna say two things. One kind of internally, one externally. So, externally, I would say the importance of people around you. Um, while I was in basketball, I never understood that until now that I'm out of it. I look back and I'm like, it was never really about basketball. Like, it was never about achieving something physical. I look back and the memories I really cherish the most and the stuff that I'm probably going to tell my kids and wife about um, is the people that, like I met along the way. Like when I think of Ohio State basketball, I think of like the stupid remarks in the locker room, the funny stories on the road, like just the people that I was surrounded with. Um, and life's all about like connecting with people and having those friendships and relationships. So I think one thing I remember about my basketball journey is just the people around me. And then the next thing I believe everyone understands about themselves after basketball or athletics in general is just that, embracing the journey. Um, cause like, you always see those like graphics on Instagram that are like, a straight line and it's like my plan. And then it's like the real plan is like, rocky roads and
Yup.
trenches and all that. And, um, I look back on my basketball journey and like, dude, I sucked in high school. Like I was terrible in public school. And all my friends were above me. So that was a challenge. Then I get to IMG and I get injured. That's a challenge. And then I had no offers and that's a challenge. And I get to Ohio State, I'm not playing and that's a challenge. And, it's just so much in my journey that I think back and I'm like, dude, like, I don't even remember the wins, like I don't remember like, I can't look back and be like, you know what, that game I had 40 and that's a win. Like, that's what I was striving for. Like, I don't even remember those. Um, I look back on my journey and I remember like the struggles and like I feel like any person that really dove into what their athletic journey was will only remember like, those hard practices, those injuries, those, the testament of faith and resilience. And I really think that if you like really want it, you got to embrace the journey and just know that it's all a part of it. Cause like, yeah, man, like when I look back on my journey, that's all I remember is the struggles and what I learned from them.
Man. Mm, dude, you, I mean, all I can say is you doing the dang thing, bro. Like you've continuously, as a hooper for sure, but as a person, just continue to elevate yourself in so many different ways. As we kind of get ready to close out here, as we get ready to come to an end, I think, you know, hearing your story, but also having known who you were before, even knowing more about you now, I view you as a person who really kind of shows and um exudes being uncontainable, right? Being that this podcast is called Uncontainable, what does being uncontainable mean to you?
Um, well, to me, opinion based, I think uncontainable. When I hear that word, I think of like, no matter what comes at you, no matter what kind of obstacles you face, that you're gonna get to where you need to be and get to where you want to be. Um, that like nothing's gonna kind of hold you down or contain you in a way. So I think being uncontainable is something that you can, it's you pushing past.
Man, Kobe, thank you so much, bro. Just thank you. You touched me today. I'm not gonna lie. You opened my eyes today. you dropped some knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I might drop this mic for you. You know what I'm saying? For real. Thank you for joining me today. And for the people watching, thank y'all for watching. Please subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode. Colby, once again, man, you're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, and God is truly blessing you. And I really believe that He's going to bless others through you too, man. So thank you so much.
Man, appreciate you, man. It means a lot.
For sure.